Thank you for tuning in to Core Voices and welcome to another amazing episode. Today, we've got beautiful conversation lined up for you with, again, some hard-hitting topics, hopefully that open your heart and give you some sprinkles of joy, helping you to figure out how you can tackle those difficult moments. That's what we're trying to do here in this space of Core Voices, to help you reach into your heart, into the core of your body and your soul, to pull out the truth that lives inside that you may have hidden away for such a long time. Use this space as your space. Reach out to us, connect with us. Check out the website, corevoices.org. Go and click that follow button on Instagram or on Facebook. Give us your support and your love. We're trying to grow this space as a supportive environment for each of you, to create that thing that we all would have wanted as children, a space where we can talk honestly, openly, and without judgment. That is what Core Voices is, for all people, all genders, all backgrounds, all problems. There is no topic that we will not talk about. If there's something that is close to your heart that you need support with, send us an email, corevoices@gmail.com. Let's use this space to break those taboos, break that silence, and be there for each other. Today, it is my absolute pleasure and joy to invite onto our beautiful show one of my dearest brothers, somebody who I love and respect very deeply. Preetinder Singh is a renowned musician, researcher, and educator in the field of Sikh music and a lead tutor at Raj Academy. Raj Academy is at the forefront of Sikh music education and revival since 1994, creating a global renaissance in the world of Sikh music. Preetinder has travelled and performed globally alongside his amazing teacher, Professor Surinder Singh, taking the Taos to global platforms, world stages, and raising its voice to new heights. Preetinder began his musical journey at the age of 12 with the Dilruba. As his passion for music grew stronger, he developed an interest for history and research. He has since developed his musical abilities onto the Taos and dedicated his life to reviving the blessed instruments of Guru Gobind Singh Ji. Preetinder is also a very integral part of the Core Voices team, in fact, the founding team that made all of this possible to help us to reach you. And please join me in welcoming Preetinder to Core Voices.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Preet.
How are you? It's really awesome to be on here. I've been watching the shows, so it feels like surreal to be actually on the show.
Well, you actually made the shows happen by being one of our original team of supporters. So thank you. Thank you for helping us to create this for the Sangat and for everybody else out there who needs it.
No, this is my absolute pleasure. It was definitely needed in our community, and you made it all happen. I just was there to just push you along.
No. It's collective and it's the Sangat's love. It's together we do this. And I'm really grateful to have you in the space today. I know you don't do many interviews. I know that this isn't like your space to be in, but it's really important for me to share regular stories because it's regular people that are actually our everyday superheroes. And you've played a key part in my journey of healing in this space of Sikh music and generally of life as well. And I'd like people to know more about you because I think you're pretty spectacular.
Thank you. So are you, actually.
So would you be kind enough to share with us a little about your background of Sikh music? Because you started pretty young and that's not normal. I mean, if you're born in India and raised in India, it might be. But for somebody who's lived the majority of their life in the West, it's not the norm. So if you could give us some context and share with us a little bit about your musical journey.
Yeah, absolutely. It's quite a long story, but I was 12 years old when I kind of was introduced to Sikh music, And so I attended a local school here in Northern Virginia, Guru Gobind Institute. And there, I remember there was a, that's where I first met this instrument sitting next to me, the Dilruba. And that's kind of where my journey started. And I started learning then. And that's when I had met Professor Surinder Singh. Actually, funny story. I used to get to the school really early, so I had walked in, and that day we all were excited because this great teacher of Guru Gobind Singh was supposed to come in, and so I was expecting this like tall, like with a massive beard, gray beard, like someone like, because that's how they projected this person, and then Professor G rolls in, and I'm like, oh, this is not who I expected, but I honestly that moment that meeting was such a blessing. I faintly remember Professor talking about Sarangi and Guru Gobind Singh and Sikh music and the emotions, and something stuck with me then, but I didn't know what, and it really did stick with me because I'm still stuck at the moment on it. And so from there, the Raj Academy team used to come every year for summer camp, and so there was no formal education at the time. So this is back in 2004, 2005, and so they would come in. So I would soak up all the information in 1 week and then practice for the next year, right? And then every year I would look forward to the summer camp. And in 2008, I had the opportunity to go on one of my first tours. It was like we were invited to when it was the 300-year anniversary of Guru Granth Sahib. So I missed 6 weeks of 11th grade in high school to go to this, and I fought my parents for an entire year to just be allowed to miss that many weeks of school. And if, for those who don't know, 11th grade is one of the most like critical years for schools in America. But I went, and it was life changing for me. That was like my turning point. If I look back, after that, I was just like, this is literally what I want to do forever. It was just such an amazing experience for me. And after that, the next year, we started touring in America. And so every, winter break, summer break, spring break, weekends, I was out traveling, learning, and, teaching and learning as well. So it was really cool. So since then, that's what I've been doing till now. That's kind of my journey, like compressed into a very small,
That's the condensed version of the
very
journey.
condensed version.
How did you know that this was for you or this was your path?
It's a hard question to answer because honestly, I don't know. Like it just, sometimes things just like make sense, and it's just like it became it became like part of me. Even when I still remember the first day I touched the Dilruba, I saw the Dilruba, and I was able to play the sargam. Just that moment, it just stuck with me. It was like after that, I was like kind of hooked. Bad example is like it was like my version of heroin, right? It just took that one moment. Sorry, bad example. Yeah. But it was that addictive to me. Like after the moment I played the Dilruba, it was just like, whoa, this is really cool. Like I couldn't put into words at that moment, but like if I look back, I had never done kirtan going into learning the Dilruba. I was never part of the Sikh like community. I was kind of shunned at that time because I used to have cut hair, and this local community at the time, they're very very judgmental. People they still are, but like at that time was very judgmental towards kids that didn't keep hair or not. And I'm sure it's still there now, but I don't experience it. But when I was 10, 11, 12, even younger, I hated going to the Gurdwara and these schools because I always felt super judged. So I always stayed away. And the only reason I went to this school was because my nanny had told me. She said it'll be good for you. You should go. And I used to love listening to stories from her. Like every night, she used to tell me a story, from Sikh history, and I used to love that. And so I was like, all right, if my nanny is saying to go, I was like, I'll go. And so that's when I started going. Um, but yeah, so I just stayed away from all this. And so I wasn't into Kirtan, I wasn't into the Gurdwara, I wasn't into Sikhi. It just didn't make sense to me because it just seemed so judgmental. I didn't like how I was treated, how I was looked at, and it just didn't make sense to me. So I just stayed away. But when I went to the school, um, of course that was there. I still felt it, with my peers and some of the teachers. But that's natural. But when I played the Dilruba, it just it did something to me that after that I was like, whoa, this is too cool. And like 6 months after that, I sang my first shabad in Kalyan. Yeah, and so the first time I ever did kirtan was on the Dilruba, and I'd never learned any other way before that, and it was in Rag. So I mean, I consider it a huge blessing that I was able to learn it how Guru intended. And
That's a
yeah, so
massive,
after that, it just sucked me in.
that is a massive blessing. So you are fully organic where it comes
Yeah.
to keeping.
Yeah, I'm an
No.
organic vegetable. Yeah.
Can you, this might be a tough question, but can you describe that feeling? Because some people won't know what you're talking about. You know what it is because you went through it. I know what it is because I've experienced it. But in your own words, to share with somebody who has no idea, who's never played one of those instruments, who might have similar experiences in not
Mhm.
feeling like they belong in the Sangat and in the community because of similar
Yeah.
difficulties.
The best way I could bring it to like some sort of understanding is like when you see something, um, like sometimes you feel like you have to cry, and then you just cry, and then you feel so much better after that. um there's like this sense of relief, or when you see something hilarious and you can't stop but laugh. um there's like this sense of relief that comes out when I played the Dilruba for the first time, and when I like started practicing it. um it always left me just like it was like this release of some sort that I can't explain still. But it was release of emotions. But at that time I didn't understand what it was, but that's how it felt. Like it was just like um this emotional like relief, this pressure going down, my heart feeling better, my stomach feeling better, my head feeling better, just my whole psyche just completely turning around. And and it's transformational. The Dilruba is like, it's powerful. These instruments that the Gurus created, there's a deep purpose behind it. It's not just an instrument. And so like, for me, it completely changed my life around. You know, so like, going in, I wasn't connected to Sikhi, the religious side or the spiritual side or whatever side. It just wasn't for me at the time. But the Dilruba helped help shape my psyche. Um, like after playing, after a year, I started contemplating a lot. The purpose of our hair, purpose of the turban, um, why we are the way we are, why the Sikhs were the way they were, right? What made the stories that my grandma used to tell me. Uh, how did those Sikhs do those things?
Mhm.
And it started kind of making sense that the mental power that they had wasn't just out of nowhere. It was shaped, like just like we physically work out to get physically stronger. Our mental and emotional health was worked out through singing and playing, and that's what made sense to me, and so I continued it.
And what was it that made you keep your hair?
Honestly, at that time, I just wanted to look like my guru, right? Just wanted to be more natural to what the reality of the universe is, right? Being in the natural order of the hukam. And so, for me, like if Guru gave all this to me, there's a purpose behind it. And at that time, I didn't understand it. But I was like, if my gurus kept their hair and they wore a turban, there must be a reason behind it, more so than just a superficial reason of just keeping the identity, right? There was something deeper than that, and at the moment I didn't understand it. But with that faith, I was like, there's a reason behind it, so I'm gonna just take the steps, and I'll learn along the way.
That's beautiful. I'm grateful for you sharing this because um, it's difficult to be honest when we don't feel comfortable.
Hmm.
And when we're younger, it becomes much harder when we feel like we don't fit in because all we want to do is belong. We don't want to be, the kid in the corner. But I think that's one of the similarities that we have is that we were those kids in the corner that nobody wanted to talk to. Right?
Always, always.
Right?
Even I remember when I started growing my hair, I was in seventh grade. So, you're going through like many changes in your body, right? So I was like 13, 14. You go through puberty. And and I was quite, I mean, I am still overweight, but at the time I was like chubby, like proper chubby. My cheeks were like tomatoes, um, like bigger versions. And
Cute faces.
yeah, yeah. And so when I was growing my hair, I looked like, oh my God, I don't even know what I looked like. When I look at the old pictures, I'm like, I cannot believe I survived those 2 years. Oh man, it's so embarrassing. But the no matter how I looked like, no matter how people treated me, I was internally very confident, and I knew what I wanted, and I knew what I was doing. So I chose to grow my hair in the like the toughest part of growing up. When your body's changing, your thoughts and your emotional changes are happening. And you're going to middle school, and then you transition to high school. It's like such a weird time, right?
Hmm.
And a very difficult time, and that's when I chose to do this. So I remember, I end of eighth grade, even in eighth grade, the entire year, I just like my hair was like up to here, and I just that's how it went. And then the summer of going into ninth grade, I joined the football team. So I the first practice we had, like training practice,
Hmm.
was in the summer. So like a month after eighth grade ended. So I was like, so that's the first time I wore a parka to school. So I like tied it up, and I mean that's what I knew at the time. So, and all my friends were like, "Dude, what is that ball in your head?" It was too funny. But because like I didn't get upset with those things. Like I just played along with them. But I still actually, that reminds me of the story. The first day I actually tied like a parka, or like wore like tied my hair up, and I wore the style of parka. Um, I still remember that day. It was in August, whatever day Rakhi is on
Hmm.
many years ago.
Yeah.
I remember I went with my dad to a local grocery store here, and I'm walking, and I feel so like I feel great because I'm like I'm looking different. This is my first time I'm walking out in public,
Mm.
looking like a Sikh, and and so I walk in. I'm kind of conscious, but not really, right? But like I feel good, and I see this dude stealing, and it's so blatant. Like this dude's trying to, those Airwick, like scented things.
Yeah.
You plug it in, um,
Hmm.
and he was like taking those out, trying to put in his pocket. And I saw it, and I started looking at him. He freaked out, and then he walked away. And then I walked away, and I came back, and I'm only 13 here, right, or it's 14. And I come back, and he's starting to do it again, and he gets annoyed, and then he walks away, and I'm like, yo, dad, like this dude's trying to steal. Should we tell someone? He's like, yeah, we'll tell him the front desk. And so we go, and so we do our thing. We go back, and like we're shopping or whatever, and we're heading back to the car. you know, it's so funny because his car was parked right next to our car. It always happens like that. And this dude, like, he started screaming racial slurs at me, and he's like, take a picture. It lasts longer, and he called me like Osama, and like some, a lot of racist things.
Hmm.
Um, and my dad was like, but, and I was 14, 13, so I was like, and this dude was a pretty big guy, but my dad, he's old school Punjabi, yeah. So I'm so happy that he had just sat in the car, and he put his belt on. I'm so happy because like he would have destroyed. He tried to open his belt, but it wasn't opening. He almost literally ripped the belt out of the socket, and and the dude, he got scared, and he walked off. He sped off. But that for me was like, I came home and I was like, holy crap! Is that what I'm going to be facing forever? Right? Like that was like my first day. I'm going out in the sarup, and the first day, it's like bam. So it's like, Guru teaching me a lesson, like, be prepared. This is what you're going to face.
Yeah.
Know how to face it. So I remember like contemplating. I'm like, dang, this is wild. Like, so it shook me, but not enough to like go backwards. But yeah, that story just came to my head.
That's good. I'm so glad that you shared that, and there's humor to it as well, because a lot of people could be afraid from that,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Especially with how racial tension is like just increasing across the world, you know? You don't know when a slur is going to become an act of violence.
Yeah.
So, I'm glad that it didn't go that way. I'm glad that your dad's seatbelt didn't open, because your
Oh,
dad is
it would have been bad.
awesome. And I'm pretty sure he would have destroyed that guy. But yes, everything happens for the best. And
Yeah.
I'm glad that you took the good out of it, that through your contemplation, you stayed strong on your path, knowing that it's not going to be an easy ride, but that you choose this.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I think
Absolutely.
that's really, really powerful.
Yeah. Those moments come throughout your life many times. But I've always chosen the difficult, side. But yeah, I mean, I've had those situations in high school too. But that's another discussion.
Yeah, but this just happened to be on your first day that you
First
decided
day,
to
yeah.
cover your head and wear your hair uncut in a jura, you know? There you go.
It's like it was good as saying welcome. Yeah,
So,
welcome.
welcome to the club.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, so you mentioned earlier that you were touring
Hmm.
when you were in your teens.
Yeah.
So I know that because I was on the tour with you. So I hope you only say good things about me. But I'd like you to share for the sake of everybody who's joining us and tuning in, hearing you for the first time. What was that like? What was that like being a teen and being on the road and traveling in your summer break, winter break, and whenever else you were on tours?
To be honest, I felt super cool, right? Like, I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. Um,
Rock star.
yeah, seriously. There was many layers to it because one, like, I was getting to spend time with my teacher, right? And getting to learn things that you don't just learn,
It's a shout out to Yogi Ji, Professor Surinder Singh.
yes, President Singh. Yes. You see, getting that one-on-one time, people don't realize his capability and what he actually has to offer. People
Mm,
are really quick to judge. But this is another topic. I'll get into that maybe down the road. But tours, I loved it. I really loved it because you know, number one thing is just spending time with the teacher, my teacher, and you as well. Like I learned a lot from you. I've always seen you as my older sister and my mentor, right? So yes, I'm not sucking up to you. Yeah, yeah. I'm seriously, and I learned a lot of valuable lessons from you as well. So the tour wasn't just going around and teaching or just doing Keithan. There were so many layers to it. I learned you know different aspects of life. So, but also getting to interface with Sangat. That
mm,
man is so amazing, and I know you relate to that too. Like, that's what you and I at the moment are like withdrawal symptoms of the Sangat, right?
yeah.
Like see traveling from state to state, from country to country, and having the Sangat that you know oh man, just the vibes like that used to give me life. And I know like I had this I remember when I was second year or third year of college, I was taking 18 credits, so that's like a full course load. Um, and every weekend I was traveling for 2.5 months. Every weekend, so I would have Monday through Thursday to do my homework and attend the classes, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday I was on tour, and but I barely got sleep, right? But I felt so alive, and I felt like that was actually one of my best years or my best semesters as well. Um,
Wow.
I got like straight A's and dean's list and things like that because, but I was able to handle it all because what gave me energy was those 3 days that I was with Sangat,
Mm,
teaching, sharing, and learning as well. And it just gave me so much energy, just so much energy. Like it was like oh man, I can't explain it. It was just too cool. It was too cool. Yeah,
you're like a teenage rock star.
not really, but that's how it felt like.
I bet you went back to school and told all of your friends that, oh, well, this is where I went this weekend.
Yeah, yeah. We would hang out and I'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna finish the assignment up and I'm about to head to the airport to go to LA or to Atlanta or they're like, what? So it was cool. It was cool. um, yeah, so getting to the sangat, getting to learn, and then getting to perform in great such amazing places, and um, it was just too cool. It was just
But
too
how
cool.
do you think it is that during that time period that you were able to hit straight A's at the same time?
Well, I mean, this is Guru's work. Guru takes care of you. So, like the sound is very powerful. The vibration, the sangat, and the shabad and the kirtan that we're doing. Um, there's power behind it. Guru didn't give it to us for no reason, and I accredit it to that me having like sleepless nights sometimes, but still being able to focus and getting the work that I need to get done. Um, even during that time, like you remain so focused. Like people around me, they're telling you, you're wasting your time. What are you doing, right? Why are you traveling? Focus on school. Do this, do that. Everyone's judging you, right? But internally, like for me, I was serving my guru, right? Whenever I went, I was serving my guru, and serving uh, what and serving the sangat around us that didn't have the capabilities to learn those things. Um, so I feel that that's what gave me the focus and energy, right? Being able to sit with my Saj
Mhm,
and just express and just mentally be very, very focused. Because honestly, that's what it requires. It's just you just need focus.
mhm.
Because everyone has the same hours in the day. It's just how you balance it. And having that routine of 4 days school, um, and homework, and even on the planes I was doing my homework and things like that. So it was just being able to balance it all. But I accredit it to Sikh music. It kept me emotionally and mentally stable,
Mhm.
and it kept me in rhythm. Not only like musically, but in life.
So, what is Sikh music?
Hmm. So, Sikh music to me, yeah. People say things. People have their definitions. To me, it's it's being able to express yourself through Guru's Shabad. And how I can explain that is like, for example, if I'm feeling like I'm in Rag, Bihagra, Rag Talang, or Rag Asa, I I will find a Shabad that my Guru Sahib wrote in the same Rag. Because for me, that's Guru saying that when Guru wrote that Shabad, he was also in the same mood as the mood I am in at the moment. And for me, I see that my guru, how he handled it, how when he was in Asa or when he was in Talang, this is the Shabad that came through him.
Mhm,
And for me, it's like, okay, if I'm in this mood, let me go into my guru's mat, yeah, and let me express the same way he did. And for me, that's what Sikh music is. It's just using the sound, to express how Guru wanted us to. It's probably
mhm.
like a really convoluted way of sharing it, but like, that's why it makes sense to me.
Well, how do you know what the mood of the rags are?
So, uh, how do I know? So it's like this. It's like, um, I see rags as like dishes, right? Like when I share with people, like this is how I explain it. Um, like everyone knows what cha is when they tea, right? Everyone knows water, milk, tea leaves, or tea or the tea bag, and sugar, cardamom. But when they drink it, they know it's tea, and so like rags are like those dishes, and but the ingredients it tells you what the rag is. So that's how you know what rags. Like when you make cha, the ingredients you know that each ingredient's elements. Like you know how it tastes like. You know how water tastes like on its own. You know how sugar tastes like on its own. When you put it all together, you make cha, and that's the rag. And so that's when you start studying it, you'll see it from that angle. Probably getting really technical, so I don't want to kind of go off
Yeah,
course
you're
here.
making everybody want to drink jar right
Yeah,
now.
I actually need some too. Yeah.
And what role do the instruments play?
It's a tool. It's like how it makes sense to me is, when we go to school, we need a pencil or we need a laptop now, because we're always typing. Um, and in the school of Guru Nanak, we need a saj. We need that tool to help, express what's going on inside, right? It helps carry that conversation that the conversation that you can't really put to words. Like when we feel something, you just can't really figure out what you're feeling. That's where the Saj comes into play. It allows you to express, and that's why we focus so much on playing the Saj. When you get comfortable with it, your body will automatically play what you're feeling, right? Everyone has it within them. Everyone is able to express, right? But because they're not familiar with the tool, they're not going to be able to express like someone who spent years, practicing that tool, right? But that doesn't mean that the person's lacking expression. That doesn't mean the person's lacking emotions. It's just they haven't trained themselves enough to express it through that specific tool. Like if you never learned how to use a pencil, you won't be able to put your thoughts on paper. It doesn't mean you don't have thoughts. So for me, the Dilruba or the Guru Saj is that it's there to serve as a tool to support you in your journey.
And what role does your Dilruba or your Saj play in your life?
A huge role, huge role. I like to see it as a part of me. I have it next to me all the time. Whenever I'm feeling something, I just sit down with it and just express. For me, it's not about music anymore. There used to be a time where I was like, I want to be the best at this. I want to be the world's best styles player, world's best Dilruba player, perform here and there. But now that no longer matters to me. What matters is that how do I use this tool to communicate? How do I use this tool to express the weight that's on my chest, right? The weight that's bearing my mind down, or that's giving me anxiety or putting me into depression. How do I use this tool to bring me out of that? And it served me every time. Every time when I sat down and I gave it a chance, it's pulled me out. And it's not only just pulled me out, it's made me stronger and made me feel more focused, and propelled me forward. So for me, the Saj is a huge, huge support. It's like it's an extension of my body, and that's how I use it now. Not to perform, not to show off. I no longer care for that. I used to be really heavy into it, but now I just want to be able to express. I just want to be able to help myself understand myself.
That's really beautiful. And because I can see a Dilruba there, and I know that there might be a lot of people who have never heard the voice of the Dilruba. Firstly, can you tell us what Dilruba means?
Yeah. Dilruba means heart stealer, and this is an instrument that was came from Guru Gobind Singh's court. At the time, Sikhs used to have the taus, and it was quite big. Even now, it's hard to travel with. Even like you have to. Every time I had bought a car, I had always made sure that my only my only requirement was that I could fit. And we call it trunk here. Some people call it boot.
In the boot.
In the boot, yeah, a boot butt. Sorry, that was like a Canadian way of saying it.
Okay.
So as you get to know me, I'm all about dad jokes and puns. One of the reasons makes me actually, no, I'm not going to get into that. I'm not going to. Okay.
You want to say the Dilruba for us?
Yeah, I'll get.
Moment.
Once you get me started on my dad jokes, I can't stop.
Yeah, we shan't do that. We will save the sangat today from your dad joke, but we will bless them with the voice of the Dilruba.
Yeah, sorry, I'm kind of cramped here, so
Okay.
I won't be able to put the camera down.
No, that's okay. You can leave the camera where it is. That's good.
So you'll just see my hand moving and
Perfect.
the sound coming. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the CD on and I'll pretend that I'm playing. And then you'll all be like, wow, that's amazing. I really felt that. But I'll just be playing Professor Surinder Singh in the background.
Yeah. I think we might notice the difference.
No, I'll just pretend. Okay.
And are you going to tell us what rag you'll be playing for us?
I honestly don't know. We'll see. I actually don't know. Like, it just comes out. So it's
let's
interesting. Sometimes, like, if I go in thinking that I'm going to play this rag, it just never happens sometimes.
Okay.
But I might.
You can tell us at the end after you've played it.
Okay. I might play Bihagra. Because that's usually the mood I'm in.
That was so
Thank you
beautiful.
so much.
That was really beautiful. I was just like closing my eyes and enjoying that so
Thank
much.
you. Yeah, that was Bihagara. That's a rag that's been helping me a lot recently. So it's when I played that, it was just honestly I didn't know what I was playing. It was just it was just helping me express. So I was just feeling as I was playing, it's like the sense of relief or release. Um, so yeah, that's
What is what is the mood of Bihagara?
Bihagara. From my understanding, is it's a separation of law. You know, it's like this deep sadness. You know, like almost like grieving of loss type of feeling or emotion or mood. So yeah,
So it helps you to say what you're feeling without using words.
100%. Yeah, thanks for saying that for me. That's exactly it. Uh, it's more than like it's you're expressing yourself, but
Hmm.
you're also releasing at the same time. And I'm sorry to use this term, but like I always share it when I teach or share is it's like physically if we don't release the things that are within us, like toxins, um, it can kill you if you don't go to the bathroom, right?
Mm.
And as a society, we are taught, or we aren't taught to express. We aren't taught to um, know that it's okay to feel and
Mm.
that it's okay to be sad. It's okay to be upset, um, and then also how to deal with that too. We're not taught that, and so we bottle it. That be a man. Just you got it. You'll be fine. Suck
Mm.
it up. And then we judge ourselves when we feel those things because we're conditioned to,
Mm.
right? That when we're upset or when we're sad or we're, whatever, in our head, our mind is saying, just shut up, suck it up, right? No one cares.
Mm.
Or, and it becomes conditioned because this is what we're told growing up. Yeah. You'll
Mm.
be fine. Don't worry. And then we just bottle it. And then, it becomes like this fake, persona that, I'm not affected by anything, right? Like, I just power through.
Mm.
But the thing is, that emotion, that toxin that you've now allowed to fester within you, is just growing, and it's just going to continue to grow and continue to burn holes within yourself, and and it comes out in very different situations. Sometimes it gets triggered, and it's like an eruption,
Mm.
right? Or it's like a slow leak within the body, and it hits you when you least expect it, and so for me, like this is what it is. It's like it's helping you excrete these toxins within you, um, but in a positive manner. People go to the gym, people do other positive things too,
Mm.
which is good. Physical activity is amazing. It helps you and makes you feel better, but it's not going to clean those crevices that emotional work can, and that's also very important. Like when I share, like it's we as a society focus on physical and materialistic growth,
Mhm.
but we don't ever think about spiritual growth or emotional growth. Um, you know, we all boast about going to the gym, getting swole. People talk about that and getting big and or being fit, or getting great jobs and making 100, 200K a year. Cool. That's honestly that's a blessing. That's cool. You're focusing on those things and you have the capability to do so. Anyone does. But what are you doing for your mental health? What are you doing for your spiritual growth? Right? We have as a society we're
Mm.
trained from the get go, um, to prepare your entire materialistic growth. That when you're born, we already have in the mind that okay, they're going to go to school for this many years, they're going to go to college, they're going to get a degree, they're going to get multiple degrees, they're going to get a great job, yeah, and then they're going to get tons of money, and then everyone, then they're going to get, and they'll be an eligible bachelor or bachelorette, yeah, because they make tons of money, um, and then
Mm.
they get married, have kids, and you have a family, and then what?
Live happily ever after.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way. Like that's important. That aspect is very important, and it's cool that as a society we have it planned out, right? But what about our spiritual growth? what's the plan for your child then? What's the plan for yourself when you are in this world? It's we don't even know. We don't even know where to start from, right?
Right.
And that's where we, that's where we're really lacking.
Mhm.
We're very deprived spiritually, and um, and so yeah, I don't know what we're talking about, but
It's
this is
okay. You
yeah.
sound very, very wise beyond your years,
No,
Preetinder.
no. So yeah, so basically, you had asked me about, so, and that's why I feel it's very important to express, because that, what's happening inside will continue to fester and destroy you internally in
Mm,
so many different ways. Like, we don't even know what's affecting us. It actually starts, it leaks into our behavior, it leaks into our habits, right? And it
mhm,
becomes part of us, and then we accept it. We don't know until we, and the only reason I know this is because sometimes what we have to do is we have to fast. We have to take ourselves out of the situation and deprive ourselves of a lot of these things, and then we realize, okay, wow, I was very much affected by this, and I didn't
mm.
know. Like, you and I last year around this time, if you remember, we did the 5-day water fast.
Yes,
Remember
we
that?
do.
So we had no food for 5 days,
Yes.
just water.
And I didn't die.
Yeah, yeah, we didn't
I
die.
might die, but I didn't die.
Yeah, it's possible, and it's possible to do it for 40 days if you want. Yeah, um, but when we did that, and you can share, and you should share as well. During that time, it wasn't the physical hunger that was the actual challenge. We weren't hungry. I wasn't hungry, but what the challenge was the mind and its connection emotionally to food, to its smells. Your senses just increase, but like, you realize how little we need food, but
Mhm.
how emotionally um, run we are with food. What did
Yes.
you feel during that time?
Oh my gosh. I think for me, it was the difference in the body and the energy.
Mm.
Um, and I remember where I wanted to quit in between. And I called you and I was like, I'm done at 3 days. And you're like, no, you're not
No.
done. Keep going. Get to day 5. And um, it made me understand exactly what you said, that firstly, I thought I would die. I did not die. And that was the biggest fear. I was like, okay, if if I do die, I can't do anything about it. Problem solved.
Yeah.
Um, but I think it helped me to appreciate the body's capacity
Yeah.
as to how great it actually is and how we can survive with just the necessities of what the body
Mm.
requires. Um, social eating, like in company when you're with people, and in Punjabi culture, like that's all you do is just like keep stuffing your face without even thinking about it,
Yeah.
right? You walk into the kitchen and you pick up some food and you're just walking through the kitchen. That's not what you went there for. You went for a glass of water, but now you're walking out with, I don't know, a sandwich or a bag of crisps or whatever it is. Um, and that was interesting to reset that pattern
Mm-hmm.
and become in control
Yeah.
of consumption, thinking that I was in control, but then seeing that, oh, hang on, okay, maybe I'm not.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting learn.
It really was, and that's, and I feel, and I learned a lot from that, because fasting shouldn't just be physical. Like, there's so many other aspects of life that we should learn to fast from, to realize how addicted we are, or how oblivious we are of the things that we're doing, right? Um, and so yeah, it's very important. But even going back to that, what we're talking about, like, it's emotionally, like, we don't focus on what's actually, like, what actually matters. We're always living on the external end, um, and that's where I feel like, as a society, even as a community, right, that we don't really focus on what really matters. We just focus on superficial things because that's all we know. And like, we like how you mentioned going into the water fast, that you thought we were going to die, and I thought that too the first time around I did it. And so we always start a task with some sort of assumption or judgment, and I think
Okay.
that's what kills us. Yeah, I mean, we don't, like, we don't research, we don't actually look at both sides of the picture. We just go based off what we're conditioned to know, what we're conditioned to think, and we just automatically say, water fast? Oh, why would you do that? That's stupid. You're gonna die, right? You need nutrients. You need this. You need that. And then you just shut it off. You shut off there. But if you're like, interesting, people have done this. Let me find out why they did it, and then let me see how it helped them, right? Let me see the side effects. Let me see the cons of it, um, and then you start understanding for yourself what and why people do this. And honestly, like, this is one of my biggest pet peeves. That's why I'm bringing this up now. Is that people judge and assume all the time, and that I hate that. I don't use this word often, but for me, it's very it makes me quite upset, because it's like, even from, if I speak from the Sikh perspective, you call yourself a Sikh, yeah, you're a student, but you've already given up on learning. You're not. It's not, learning isn't just from the Guru's everywhere. So how are you going to learn from the person next to you? How are you going to learn from the person in front of you or behind you, without judgment? Like, we've already assumed things and judged things about people, and that shuts our learning off. But then we call ourselves Sikhs, and that's something I also had to, like, condition myself to learn, that yeah, this person might not be who I think to be a learned person, but that's my judgment. But I've learned things from people that I would have never thought they would have something to, like, they would be able to teach me. Um, it's a funny story. So I work for an education company, and this is just an example of learning from the most unexpected places. I was at the time working with kids, and so one of my case study students, she was about 4 years old, 5 years old. She came in, and she sat down on the desk, and the first thing she said to me, and she was so proud. She was like, "I peed in my pants in school today." And I cracked up. I actually didn't. I had to hold it in because I didn't. But she was looking at me to see how I'd react, and I was like, "Oh, that's okay. That it happens. Even I've done it, right?" And then she smiled, and she was like, "Okay, that's cool." But she was proud, and that made me think. I was like, interesting. Like, she's so like, she doesn't care, right? Because if something, like, if I had done well, not obviously, like, if I'd done something embarrassing, I judge myself so much in that moment, right? And I become so, like, I become hard on myself, and then I make myself feel bad, and then I become sad and depressed, and then it's like a vicious cycle. But from just that one moment, I was like, oh wow, she didn't care telling anyone, no matter how old or young. Like, you feel embarrassed, you do get embarrassed, but she was proud of just peeing in her pants. And so, but from that, I was like, interesting. So after that, I was like, let me try to not judge myself, in situations where I feel I did something stupid.
Yeah.
So what? Maybe I could learn something from it. And it's just these, like, small examples, like, we just don't judge and don't assume. Step back from the situation, and see what you're dealing with from both sides, not just from your own understanding, because that's not all there is to it, right?
Absolutely. That's a pretty deep example. I appreciate the humor and the cute little girl, but you're right. This is how we become socially conditioned,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
If you'd have shamed her in that moment, you would have changed how she becomes, and she would have had self-confidence issues and all of these things growing up.
It's
And
just the
that's where
tiniest thing. Yeah.
Yes. And I think that that's something that we often underestimate and overlook, is how important our reactions are to others, and how we project our insecurities onto them. And the topic that I'd like to take us into is something that you kind of touched on: toxic masculinity. And being, a young, handsome, Sikh man, how I like
How about
that.
that? Just kidding.
How have you dealt with that projection? Because there's a strong projection onto Punjabi men to behave a particular way and have a particular persona. And I think it's over masculinized. Like, you have to be very strong and macho, and then you're a man. And if you're not in that whole warrior spirit and fighting, then you're not really a man. And if you cry, then that apparently makes you less of a man. This was the old school mentality, which I think has still seeped down somewhat into the next generations. But how did you deal with that?
Yeah, so I've always been very different. So like I mean, I wasn't like that, the macho guy always. I've always like, always been the big guy, going through school, played football throughout my, schooling years. So I was always very intimidating to people, always, because I was always the biggest guy, and I looked intimidating. If you look at some old photos, um, but internally I never felt that. And to your question, like it is unfortunate that we have to, like, for me, from my perspective, I see this like toxic masculinity as, and I can't even say the word, sorry, masculinity. Can you say it for me? Yeah,
You think so well. Masculinity. I got you.
masculinity,
Yeah.
masculinity.
Yeah.
Sorry. Um, so I feel that it's like overcompensation of hiding or running away from your emotions and what's happening within you, um, because you're hurting inside, because you're sad, because you feel rejected, right? We all been there. I've felt rejected quite often. And recently I felt rejected many times, just in the last few months, uh, or feel sad, or feel upset, or feel angry, or feel happy, right? Or feel excited. There's just so many feelings that we have, but it's the same thing. It's the social conditioning that we're conditioned to behave a certain way and react a certain way, even though it's not what you really feel on the inside. And so sometimes um, I see that, like in people I know, some of my friends, families, they hide behind this tough exterior, but when you get to know them, they're they're softer than butter inside.
Mm.
But because they have to make sure that they're not judged by the world, that they're not um, kind of seen differently, they have to have this exterior, because that's what we're taught to function in the social world or the professional world. Um, no one really cares. No, I work in the professional world. Um, when someone asks you how are you, or how's your weekend, no one actually really wants to know, right? I mean, that's in reality, like, no one really cares. Um, but that's because we're conditioned that way. And so for me, just like from the the masculinity side, I feel it's just an overcompensation of the feelings that are actually happening within.
Hmm.
But that's from my perspective. I could be wrong.
What about other young men out there who might be in different situations where they feel the pressure of those expectations? What what advice or guidance could you give them? Because
Yeah,
your experience in this world is different to mine. You live in a male body, I live
yeah,
in a female body. And I think that even though we've been in similar environments, our perception of those situations is very different. And our experience of our lives is very different because of that. And I want I
yeah.
want it to be clear that Core Voices is a space for all people and
Absolutely.
all genders. And talking about the issues that affect the males within the community is as important as talking about the female issues too.
No, absolutely. So honestly, like, what I would say is, and just be yourself. I know this word is used so much, and it does sometimes. It just, the value gets lost within it. But be true to yourself. Be who you really are. Right. Be comfortable in your own skin. Uh, and I really mean that. In how you do that is spending time with yourself. Sometimes it's okay to be alone. And I feel like, we try to conform because we don't want to be alone. We want to have a group of friends around us. Um, and just speaking about it now, I'm contemplating even my own life. Like, I I can't really say that I've had a best friend, or I've had a group of friends that I've hung out with since ever. Right? Um, I've had many friends growing up, but I've always remained distant because I knew that I don't want to be that. Right? Like, I had all types of friends, but it's important to be comfortable in your own skin. It's okay sometimes to disassociate, right? Because it's not the end all, right? Uh, but be comfortable and know who you are, because this is one thing I'm realizing now, actually, is that being alone is not a negative thing. Sometimes you have to gather your thoughts. You have to be in this form called solitude, and you have to really spend time um, conversing with yourself. And I feel the more time we spend conversing with ourselves and really knowing who we are, what we feel, and how we feel, and why we feel, uh, when you're more sure of who you are, then in any social situation that you're in, you will always be in control. You'll always know how to react, or not react. And I think that's something that it's lacking in our community, even in society, because we're not taught this. We're not taught how to um, just be alone. We're not taught how to contemplate. We're not taught how to trust ourselves.
Mm.
So so go ahead.
No, I'm listening to you, Preet.
No, you go ahead. I've lost my train of thought.
I'm not taught how to do those things. Sorry, I threw you off your trail of thought there.
You
What about the whole notion that, if you cry, you're not a man, or it makes you less of a man?
Yeah. I think that's quite ridiculous statement, right? It doesn't make any sense, right?
Mhm.
That's like saying, actually, I'm not gonna say this example. Never
These are the
mind.
main examples.
I'll keep it PG
Yeah,
13 or PG. Um,
thank you.
no, it's a ridiculous statement because we're humans, right? Honestly, like we all have both sides of the energy. Like we should be able to understand our feminine side and a masculine side. But crying has nothing to do with our feminine or masculine side. It's crying is a part of it. It's just it's pain from emotion. This is coming out from you. It's not a negative thing. If we all go to the bathroom, right? That's not it's not assigned to a specific gender, right? We all have to release our toxins physically, and we should all be, and we don't judge each other for that. And it's the same thing emotionally and mentally. We have to be able to release these pent up emotions. If you have to cry, cry. If you don't feel comfortable crying in front of people, I get that. I wouldn't. I I get that. I wouldn't cry in front of someone else. I Anytime I've cried in the professional world, and I'll be honest, um, I've cried recently too, but I always do it uh, in hiding because I don't want other people to see it. So I understand that, but when you have to cry, cry. It's not something to be ashamed of. It's just it's important to get that out. So yeah, don't ever think that crying is a feminine thing. It's not, not at all. It's a human thing.
Hmm. Can I ask you a question? And you don't have to answer,
Hmm.
but why do you, why would you be hesitant to cry in public? Is it because of perception? Is it because of shame?
Um, I wouldn't say shame. It's embarrassment, right? And it's also keeping my composure because I don't want to be seen as a weak person, right? So I already have see I can see my judgment in myself, but I
Yeah.
also don't want to be I don't want other people to worry, right? I don't want other people to be like, what's wrong? Because it's I feel bad. Like I just want to be. Sometimes it's important to be alone and cry because you don't. But sometimes you need to be with family, and they help with that too. Even like one thing with our grieving process within our like in the Punjabi community is so powerful because we all come together and cry when we lose someone, and that honestly helps a lot. It really does, and it really it just like it's like pinching a pimple and getting it all out. It's like that emotionally. Sorry, my examples are just um, I'm telling you, man. Um, but it's like that. But emotionally, like when you're all together, you're just you're just excreting it all out, and everyone crying with you helps, and you go through that process um, in a better way rather than it getting stuck in you and affecting you forever and ever,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's like just pent up emotion, um, and and in my situation, like I didn't want to do that because I wanted to keep it to myself because I had a tool to cry with, right, and that helped me. But that doesn't mean that I shouldn't I wasn't allowed to cry in public or this and that. But sometimes being a professional, you have to be a bit you have to have your composure, um, and so and that's going through life, like I have to make sure I don't show sometimes, like in the professional world I keep my emotions in. I feel and I store it, and then I come home and I express it and let it out. But that's how I do it. So,
And do you use your Dilruba? Is that what you mean by when you come home and
yeah,
express it?
Dilruba taus or just vocally.
Okay.
Yeah,
So, thank you. I appreciate you answering that question. And I think the only thing I would like to add is that it's okay to ask for help, because that's
yeah,
part of that stigma that's put onto males, is that they have to be the ones to fix everybody's problems and they have to be strong and they're not allowed to ask for help. But mental health is something that affects every single human being,
yeah,
regardless of culture, gender, economical background, religion, whatever. Mental health affects all human beings, and
absolutely.
it's important to reach for help when you need it. We need to come out of those stigmas and out of those blocks and just be human and
Mm,
express what we're feeling. Find a safe space, somebody that you trust, or an environment that you feel comfortable within.
right.
Um, I think that you and I, Preet, are quite lucky because we have our instruments, our saj, as
Mm,
tools to help us express our emotions. But it's only through the conversations that I share with so many people, I realize how rare that is.
yeah,
Because the majority of people who are tuning in right now, they don't have access to those tools. They don't have access to that language or those techniques. But this is why, we do the work that we do at Raj Academy, is to take that out there for people to understand and to connect with in a more practical way. Um, you talked a little bit earlier, you mentioned that you use your instrument as a way to deal with your anxiety and
hmm
depression. Can you share with us a little bit more about how your Dilruba or how your practice of Sikh music has helped you in those situations where you feel emotionally conflicted?
yeah, yeah. Um, you know, depression or anxiety, it's all a spectrum, right? We 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 like to label, but it's we all go through it, right? You don't have to be clinically diagnosed. I mean, this is just me personally saying, I'm not a doctor or anything, but you don't have to be clinically diagnosed to know that you're depressed or have anxiety. It's just a spectrum, and you kind of fluctuate in and out. But uh, it's helped me in many situations. Like I'll be um, just recently, and this is like a touchy topic, so I'll share though, because I like to be open. I don't like that's one thing that's changed a lot about me. I like to be open now. I don't really hide behind things.
Mm,
Um, so recently I went through a pretty big breakup. Yeah.
mm,
Uh, and so yeah, forgive me if I'm a bit raw about this because it's still quite it's still there.
that's
And
okay.
what's it called? It was quite intense because it was like at that moment the breakup wasn't because the person and I didn't work out. It was just the um the uh the people around the person, right?
Mm,
Family, friends, they didn't approve of me, and so there was a lot of reasons, right? There's a lot of layers to it, which I can talk about another time. But um, the first thing I felt was just like pure sadness. Like it was like a huge rejection, right? Like this, it's literally like a loss, right? Like you've just lost
mm,
um, someone you spent so many years with, uh, and so it's like you lost someone, like someone has just passed away or died. Um, the relationship died, and everything that was with it, and so you feel this like extreme sadness. And people who are listening to this now right now, and I mean, if you've experienced it, the pain. It's not it's not fun. It's not
mm,
fun at all. And like it's like it's hard to explain. And but for me, I realized, I knew at that moment that I'm in Bihagra through my experience and just learning and getting to learn over these years. I realized I'm in Bihagra and I need to express. And it was such a tough week for me anyways when all that happened. I had like so many work assignments due. I had college assignments. I had a paper due, and I had a training that entire week, which I had also had assignments for. It was just like, and it was all happening all at once. It was like a huge like, man, it was everything at once. And uh, but the only thing that kept me going was just being able to sit with massage and truly sing. I knew I was in Bihagara, so literally like I was working from home. So every time my meeting would finish, I would just come over, sit with massage, sing a shabad, And I'll be honest with you, I honestly don't, I'm not vulnerable about my feelings. I cried many times as I sang, and the Bihagara, like I, there's no one that can tell me that rag isn't important. No one, because in this situation, and in many others, the rag, when my guru wrote the shabad in Bihagara, right, or any shabad that he wrote that's in Bihagara, my guru was in that same mood, and I was in that mood, but I allowed myself to not allow that mood to take me over and ruin my day, ruin my week or months or years. I chose to follow my guru's footsteps and sing the shabad that he sang when he was in that mood, and using gurmat, right? I went to guru's mat instead of allowing my mind to take over and just making myself feel more depressed and sad and just miserable. But what I did was I used that rag and just allowed myself to cry through it, allowed myself to really sing it out, and afterwards it was such a relief. I mean, I can't. It's like oh man, it's just like the weight is lifted off of you. It's just, and this is like like when you get cut and you scab up, and then sometimes it reopens and you bleed again and it scabs up. This is how it's been since. And every time like that bihara comes back in, right, that sadness comes back in, I sit for massage and just burn it out. But then life is very, it's not that singular that's all I felt, right? Then I would go into feeling quite alone, right, and feeling very isolated. Then that's when I would use tenacity, that hey man, you're not alone, guru's with you. That's tenacity. And then and then sometimes I would need ramkali to tell me that hey look, this situation that you're in, I know it sucks, and it's painful, but it's for your own growth. This change that's coming into your life, that's happened, it's for your own growth, and it's going to actually serve you down the road. So just hang on. Yeah, believe in guru. That's ramkali, and that's where sometimes I needed that. And sometimes when I missed the person, and it was just like very like sad feelings, but like also like remembering the good times, that's where I would use Maj and convert that to feeling towards the creator that way. And so it was like I was so grateful to be able to be given this knowledge, to use it, and it did help. I'm not, this is not like me trying to sell something. It's not me just making things up. This literally just is what kept me alive. It's literally what kept me going. No one in my job, no one knew that I was going through this, because I was able to just burn it, and use it as my fuel into my bhakti. Yeah, it was just something that just made sense, and I'm so thankful to Guru that I was able to learn this for it to serve me when I needed it. And yeah, this is how I used it.
Wow. I am really grateful for you being so brave to share something that's so raw and very recent.
Yeah.
And I know that everybody who's tuning in will appreciate the truth and the reality of that, because these are things that we go through as humans. And culturally, we get shamed for this, or we get ostracized depending on whichever circles we might, operate in. If, dating is one of those topics that doesn't really get talked about.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it's a shame that we don't talk about it. It is a reality of our world.
Yeah.
And I don't think that there's any shame in it.
There isn't.
There shouldn't be.
Nope.
Yes. And breaking up, it is grieving. It is going through all the motions and not knowing how to deal with it. And that's not training that we've been given in our society. We're taught how to deal with the good things when everything's smooth sailing, but nobody's given us the tools to deal with the difficult things. And unfortunately, life throws many more difficult things at you than it does the good. Unfortunately, that's a reality.
Yep.
And I know that I'm speaking on your behalf as well right now, but for both of us, Sikh music is the thing that's kept our spirits strong during the difficulties of that roller coaster of life. And, definitely this is what we want to share with the world. And this is why Guru Sahib gave us these tools and this vidya of Rag Kirtan, is to be able to help us deal with our emotional and mental wellness.
Yeah.
Somehow we've come away from those things, and we fall towards easier mechanisms, but they don't work. They don't resonate in our heart the same way. And
Right.
if you want those tools, Guru gives you everything. You can reach out to us and let us be there as a support for you in your journey while you're dealing with these things, because Guru is real and
Absolutely. Yeah.
the teachings are real as well. The whole topic of dating, being sensitive and being, I don't know how people are going to take it, but I'd like to ask you, Preet, how is it being a Punjabi man in that space? Because I don't imagine it to be easy. I know that I know from the female perspective, like, how often I get creeped on in my DMs
Oh
because
yeah.
I'm sharing that with,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So there's people like me who have an aversion to like Punjabi men sliding into my DMs because they're not eloquent. They don't know how to be respectful. They know nothing about me, but they're in love with me, or they want to marry me, or they want to send me explicit photographs, which are not welcome. Yeah, it's really gross. So there's that side of it, which is my side, and I've like talked a little bit about that. But can you share with me and with everybody who's tuning in your side as a Punjabi man who's living out in North America? What's it like?
Honestly, I don't know. Like, I can only speak from my perspective, right? I can't speak for all the other guys. I consider myself very different. I'm always been like, I use the term weird, but we're all unique in our own ways. So, but for me, it's been difficult in the sense that, and this is like a long story. This like has a lot of twists and turns. But Benji, I know you know. But like, me being on the tours and me being part of this journey, there was a lot of ill wishers and doubters around me and my family, and in my family too. And they used to say like, "Why are you wasting your time? Focus on your study. Why are you going and traveling and learning?" And they're just, you're just wasting your time. Yeah.
Mm.
Uh, and but for me, I wasn't wasting my time because I knew what I was getting out of it. And it kind of takes me back to what I was talking about earlier, that as a society we only focus on materialistic growth. Um, I was spending those years developing tools to develop and explore my spiritual growth. And people are the naysayers, the ill wishers, the doubters didn't see that. They just saw that I was wasting away valuable time to towards getting degrees and making tons of money. And so, and I'll be honest with you all, like I got my bachelor's in 2014, and then after that I started traveling, right, with Raj Academy, because this is where I really thrive, right? This is what gives me life. And so I had taken a break from school because my long-term goal, which I don't really want to share at the moment, because um, which we can talk about another day. But there was a reason why I did it. It wasn't that I didn't want to go to school. There was a reason, because I wanted to spend that time that I would have not have gotten. Um, and so I took those years, you know, to focus on spiritual growth, traveling and learning and seeing life in a very different manner. And so, but the people around me, and honestly, I'm just so grateful. Like, I bow my head to my parents every day, because they were like, I couldn't do what I did and what I'm doing now if it wasn't for their support
Mm-hmm.
at all. People used to go to my mom and say, your kids is being stolen. Like, they're not, he's just traveling and he's just wasting his time. Who's gonna marry him, right? He's not going to school. He's not making enough money. He doesn't have a good job, and this and that. What is he going to do with his life? My parents used to hear that all the time. My dad would get upset, obviously, and he would he would make me hear it. Um, uh, but that's typical Punjabi dads. And but my mom, man, like, she's always been on my corner, and she's always supported me, because she's seen what it's done for me, right? She's seen where it's helped me, and it's like it's changed me as a person, for the good. And but the people around me, they just, all they can see is the negative. That, you know, so for like, long story short, because I don't have a great degree at the moment, um, and that I'm not making a lot of money, that I'm not someone who's capable to be married or be capable to provide, right? Because physically or materialistically, I'm not where I should be for my age. And I feel this type of pressure, like it's like a paradox, or it's like a contradiction, that our community feels that, you know, um, the quality should be there, right? And that, you know, that the guys aren't the only breadwinners, like women should work, and it should be an equal like partnership.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, that our community is so back, like but they still want the guy to be the one that, um, to be the sole provider. See what I'm saying? And it's just like, it's just a very convoluted way of thinking. It's like almost a it's, I don't know, it's
Contradiction.
tradition. Yeah,
No, contradiction.
contradiction, right? Yeah. Um, so yeah, like unfortunately, no, I didn't spend time working on materialistic growth in those 5, 6, 7 years. Um, but what I gained instead was something that's going to serve me for the rest of my life, and the materialistic growth will come along with it,
Mm-hmm.
right? I just spent time on a different aspect of my life,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, but people don't see that, right? Because people aren't like, and I'm not being judgmental, but it's a reality. And I think everyone watching, and you can see people around you, so many unconscious people, right? That they don't see the words that they say, the actions that they take, how much of an effect it makes on other people,
Yeah.
right? One judgment towards one person can change their entire life, and they don't even know what they did, right?
Yeah.
They might think they're doing the right thing. They
Mm.
might be thinking that I'm just protecting my son or daughter, right? But
Mm.
they don't really see what they're doing. This is in general I'm speaking, but it's, as a society, we really need to focus on our mental health, our spiritual health, alongside our physical. Right? We're focused. We're still good with physical health. We go to the gym and things like that. Even then, it's not just about the gym. It's our eating habits. We call it the SAD diet. The standard American diet is, it's going to lead you to diabetes and heart problems, and because it's designed that way.
Mm.
That's another topic. But our mental and materialistic wealth, we focus on that so much as a community. That's all we think about. It's
Yeah.
all we think about. But then, we're okay with our daughter or son marrying someone who makes 100, 200, 300K a year, has a great job. But what about their mental health, right? What about their lifestyle?
Yeah.
You think that they're going to be mentally happy just because they're making that much money, or that they have a degree,
Mm-hmm.
or they have a PhD or a master's? Does
Yeah.
that make you a better person? No. It
Mm-hmm.
just makes you materialistically successful, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it. But
I,
what have you done to spend time internally in your spiritual world,
mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah,
It's important, Preetham. I mean, like from the female perspective, what I can share here is that you're 100% right. The reason that you and I get on and that we're so close is because you have emotional intelligence. You have you've worked on yourself internally to understand how to communicate with yourself, honor your own feelings, and show up for you. And that's, I mean, you have been a great pillar for me in times when I needed that support. And you know that. It's something that's missing in our wider community, 100%.
absolutely. Yeah,
We, I call out the parents, I call out our family structures, I call out how we're educating our kids and our young men because we're doing a lot of things wrong.
yeah,
You're 100% right, Breed. Emotional education hasn't been even looked at. We're making machines that on the outside look nice and shiny, but inside are rotten and they don't know how to function.
Yep.
So just because we look okay, just because we've ticked all the boxes, I've got a good job, I've got a nice house, I've got this, I've got that, now I'm ready to get married. No, you're not. Not unless you've been taught how to respect yourself,
Yep.
how to respect the opposite gender, how to figure out your emotions, how to have a difficult conversation in a way without arguing and being narcissistic in that situation by projecting your own insecurity onto that person and making it into a toxic, abusive relationship. So
Wow. Yeah. 100%.
most Punjabi guys who hit on me tick those boxes. They look great, they're Amritari, they've got, they're case, they've got a nice car, they've got a good family, they've got all of those things. But inside, they are so insecure.
Yep.
They can't imagine the thought of an independent, strong woman by their side. They want somebody who's submissive, that's going to come to their house and make the rotiya and just do what they say and be a slave. Okay? That sounds really harsh, but it's the truth. And there's nothing wrong with being domesticated if you choose that life. There's nothing wrong with having a good understanding in a relationship when there's a partnership. But when this is what you're saying to somebody on the offset without knowing them, you sent them your biodata and then you're saying, okay, well, these are my other requirements. I want you to look after my parents. I want you to clean my clothes and iron them and have my clothes ready for me before I go to work. I want my food cooked for me. Okay, hire a cleaner, hire a chef. Your job's easier. Your life is easier. Okay, if you're looking for a marriage, if you're looking for a relationship, that requires emotional intelligence to make it work.
100%.
Right?
Wow. Beautiful. Yep. 100% agree. It's.
If
Mhm. Go
your turn.
ahead. No, I 100% agree with you. That's the missing key. You know, it's that partnership, right? How I see it is, if we can't be alone with ourselves and have that conversation and be nice to ourselves and respect ourselves and love ourselves, it's never going to be projected to the partner that we're with, ever. Because I see it as the relationship with my soul and my mind is it's like a physical version of it with your partner, right? In a way that how I treat my mind, how I treat myself is how I'm basically the behaviors that I'm creating with me is what's going to be projected on to my partner. And if you aren't even if you don't know who you are and you don't know why you feel the way you feel and why you get upset and what makes you upset, and if you're afraid to talk about it or don't know how to bring it up, it's going to come out as negative, like your aggression is going to come out, right? Or you're going to be passive aggressive. You're not going to know how to speak. You're going to ignore the other person. You're going to get into a fight. You're going to cheat, right? We all make mistakes. I made mistakes too, but like you learn, you live and learn, right? But the emotional intelligence is the key. But you have to be emotionally intelligent to know who you are and why you are and what you feel and why you feel, and how to deal with it. And knowing that, you'll be able to deal with your partner too, right? In a very like positive way. Like that doesn't mean you're never going to get in fights. You will, but you'll know how to deal with it. You'll know how to behave. You won't be negative. You won't be nasty. You'll be able to have an adult conversation, where you find out the problem, yeah, and then you work on it without any negativity. Without, oh well, you said this to me that time and you did this. It's none of that nonsense.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
I 100%. This is what we need to do in order to make these spaces healthier. In like marriages don't last, right, anymore. They're in love for years and years. They get married, and 2 months later they're divorced.
yeah,
Okay, this has become the pattern. This is now our new norm. There's nothing wrong with getting divorced, but if you don't have to do it, I don't recommend it.
no, absolutely, yeah,
It's making sure that you're in the right frame of mind and you're bringing your best self into that relationship, and you're there to honor the other person. If you're there to be respectful to them, they will be respectful to you.
absolutely,
I haven't met many men in our community who know how to respect women.
Mm.
And that's the
That's
sad
unfortunate.
truth.
Yeah,
That's the sad truth.
yeah,
And then people wonder, why is it that Punjabi girls or Sikh girls are marrying men of other faiths?
hmm
this is the reason. Because they're being treated with respect in those relationships. And that is what is lacking in our community in terms of education. This should be a priority. We think it's a given. We think it's normal. It's not. It's not.
And it stems from how we're brought up. Because if we have traditional parents, boyfriend, girlfriend is not an option. It's not something you can even think about. Yeah. What happens is that kills all conversations. It kills all experiences, because a child growing up, you're not teaching them about relationships. You're not teaching them what to expect. You're not teaching them how to relate, how to behave, and how to see signs of toxic relationships. So, and I see a lot of people that I've grown up with, they've all hidden their relationships, right, from their parents, and that's the worst thing you can do, because now you're doing stupid things, right? In terms of you're hiding, you're lying, but at the same time, you don't know if you're dealing with a toxic relationship or abusive person, you don't know you don't know what to do, and it's just that's to your point, our community is not designed that way, that they don't allow that. If they had open conversations and say, hey, look, times have changed, it's okay to have a boyfriend and girlfriend, it's fine, and as a parent, you guide your child, hey, look, these are the signs of an abuse. If someone does this to you, or tries to do this to you, or says this to you, or behaves this way, this is not okay. It's not right. You have an opportunity to have those type of discussions, right? Otherwise, you get blindsided down the road. So you don't prepare your child, right? And you're not prepared as a parent to deal with that too. And I feel like it's better to be proactive than reactive in these situations. But then again, our parents and their generation, it was different, right? The entire generation is completely changed.
Yes.
So I know our generation will be able to have these type of conversations. So we kind of got the short end of the straw growing up. Because I remember I'll give you a story to keep it light. I was in kindergarten, and I was maybe 5, 6 years old. And what's it called? I had a friend. We were in kindergarten, and there was another girl in our class, and so my friend and this girl, they were boyfriend, girlfriend. And after class, our class had just finished, and we were waiting to go to the bus. You have to go in the line, so we have a line leader. So I was just we were just waiting, and so he opens his umbrella up, and I guess they were kissing or whatever. They're 5 years old, right? And everyone's like, ew, you're all kissing, and oh, you have cooties and things like that. That's how we were, right? It was little kids. But I went home. My mom picked me up on the bus stop, and I told my mom, I was like, oh, my friend, I think his name was Kyle or whatever. I was like, oh, he has a girlfriend. And I was like, and my mom was like, she gave me the talk. She's like, in our culture, we don't have boyfriends or girlfriends. We don't do any of this. You never talk about girlfriends ever again. And it traumatized me. So till high school, I'd never thought. I was like, I'm never gonna think, because I was traumatized. I can't remember the exact words my mom said, but I was like, oh, dang, okay.
It was like, je tu kudi da na liya hai na, I love your mom. I love your mom.
Yeah.
But no, I can imagine dude, just the thought. Okay, I wasn't allowed to talk to boys. Forget boyfriends and girlfriends. If my dad saw me once at the Gurdwara talking to a boy who was in my class at school,
wow.
My dad went and scared the living daylights out of this kid. All he did was he talked to him in a very firm voice, but it was enough to make that kid never talk to me at school ever again. And I was like, come on, you're asking me about school. But I couldn't imagine living in that world where I could openly have a boyfriend. It was, I come from that generation, I guess, where it was, if you have a boyfriend, that is the end of your life. The word,
Yeah.
That's what that would have been the sentence. That was the sentence, basically, that I was given. I wasn't given a talk. I was given an ultimatum. If you want to live, you live without a boyfriend. If you want to die, get a boyfriend. Okay, that's clear. No boyfriends.
right. And but here's the thing, like there's no transition, right? You go through your life like, okay, no, 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 and then okay, time to get married, right? You're like, what? Sorry, what? Right? And that is like so abrupt to me, and it just doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't
But
make any sense.
okay, so those were the cards that they were dealt,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So they didn't know any better. And then they just continued that same system, thinking it's right, but not knowing how to adapt it in a way that makes them comfortable, but that fits to us in our Western world as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I mean,
I understand that, and I
that.
get how parents will be very iffy about these things, and it makes sense. But then
Yeah, but it's not just parents. Like if you're a girl, it's your brothers as well. Because if you're like, if my brother, if I was dating somebody and my brother found out, he would go and do the same thing my dad did to that kid at the Gurdwara. I don't know why, but that's what he would do.
That's what brothers are supposed to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Can you imagine how hard it is for somebody like me, for a girl,
Yeah.
for all of my sisters out there who are in that situation?
You're the only sister, yeah.
Oh my God. That poor guy, whoever it would be, would run away, like just for fear of life.
Yeah.
So it's tough, man. It's really tough.
It is.
You know, I mean, we could say that it's not right to hide those things from your parents if you are dating.
Absolutely.
But how are you ever going to find the right person, right? Besides what, shadi.com? Is that it? Is that our option right now?
Yeah, no, no comment.
So yeah, let's do no comments on that. But how do we do it? How do we create a safe space, a healthy way for young Sikhs to date or to meet other people? Because arranged marriages got shut down, right? Because everybody's like, I'm not going to have an arranged marriage. I'm going to have a love marriage. Okay, so the parents step back, and now there's no network to find people.
Yeah, we need Seemanti.
Matches, right?
Yeah, we need Seemanti.
We need Seemanti. No, okay. So I did a live.
We need a Sikh version of it, right?
So okay, wait. Hear what I'm going to say. I did a live a couple of weeks ago on Instagram, the first time I've done a live, and I was getting those like matrimony questions come in, right? And you know, maybe we open a matrimony space.
Oh,
The first person that I would put out there is that now my brother is single. Preetinder Singh.
No, let's
Please send me your biodata and send me your photos, all marriage proposals, send them to corevoices@gmail.com.
This is going to be our subset, Core Voices Matrimonials. I'll be the poster boy.
But yeah, you'll be my poster boy. That's what we'll do. We're going to set up our own matrimony space. But it's really important, the things that we're talking about. I know we're talking about in a comical way, but it's difficult to know how we're supposed to do that. How do you make the transition from being somebody who's going through your education to now knowing how to be in a marriage and in a relationship? How to pay bills, how to budget, how to raise a family, how to be considerate of another human being who's now a permanent part of your life.
Right.
How to do all that stuff. Like, who's going to give us that information? Right?
Absolutely. It's not taught. And I mean, that I feel like that's kind of one of the roles of parents, right? Like that's kind of who would be the one to do that for you. And I'm not saying that, you know, parents are in the wrong because they're not doing that. It's, you know, no one's given, like, we're not given the opportunity. They weren't given the opportunity. Even people in our generation haven't either. And they just basically, it's like, it's intergenerational, right? How you're treated, what you see your parents as, and relationships around you, that's kind of what you form as, okay, this is how relationships should be, right? Not knowing how it actually is being in one, right? So many people just go into relationships feeling that, okay, I see how my mom and dad are, right? Or I've seen how my uncle and aunt are, or whatever. This is how it should be, right? So like, we learn not through experience, but we learn through seeing others. Yes. But that's not the full picture, and that's where, you know, we really get lost. And having opportunities to date is important, especially because if it's visible and it's known and it's accepted by your parents, then it remains healthy. Does that make sense? It remains safe, and it remains away from the ways like the the horror stories that parents are afraid of happening, right? It doesn't happen, or it's very reduced because now the parents are involved. Obviously, sometimes you don't want that either, but I'm just saying there should be a a level of understanding and okayness with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I want to offer to everybody who's in our Core Voices
Mm.
community to use this as that space. If you're struggling with any of these things, if you're in that situation and you don't know how to deal with it, you don't know how to ask the questions or what to do, email email us at corevoices@gmail.com and let us use this space to have those conversations, talk about those things and figure it out together, because maybe our parents don't know, and they didn't know how to create something that will serve us. Tell us what you need, what would be supportive to you if you're looking for a relationship, or you want to understand how to be in a relationship and you're trying to work through some of the patterns that you might have. If you've been in relationships that have not worked out, what is it that you can be doing to work on your emotions that will help you to show up better so that you avoid toxic relationships? Um, the key thing here is having that connection with your emotions. If you don't know who you are and what you're feeling, you won't know how to be there for somebody else, to listen to them, to support them, and to go through the difficult things that life throws at you. Sikh music is the tool that the gurus gave to us for this very reason. Yes, the Dilruba sitting over Preet's shoulder. And it's a pleasure and an honor to be able to share this with everybody who's tuning into this space, because it's something that has saved my life, has helped me to deal with all of the difficulties that I've been through in my life. And I'm sure there's many more to come, but I know that I'll get through them because I've got these tools. I know how to listen to my emotions. I know how to work through them. And I know that Guru will always give the guidance through Shabad and through Kirtan to help me overcome them. And I'm sure that Preet is the same for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Exactly what you said. Copy paste. Yeah.
That these are the tools that we can use
Yeah.
to
Absolutely.
to create better presence in relationships, in any relationships, at work, at home, with family, in, with partners, whatever it is. It starts from inside here, and when things are messy inside, they'll be messy around you too. So
Yeah.
we need to contemplate that. And with that, we have come to the end of our show, Preet.
We could keep on talking, but yeah,
We could keep on
still not.
talking forever. Um, what last message would you like to leave all of our beautiful Core
Mm.
Voices community with?
A few things. One, I would say, you know, contemplate on your life and look and diagnose your materialistic growth alongside your spiritual and emotional growth. How much time have you given to your emotional side? How much time have you given to your spiritual side? It's very, very important that we live life balanced. Otherwise, we'll always be unhappy, right? We'll always be kind of missing something if all you focus is on materialistic and physical growth, and never look at spirituality, right? Um, Work on it side by side instead of working through your life, entire life materialistically, focusing on just the money, the career, the house, and then when you've retired, then focus on the spiritual side. You've wasted your entire life. Do it at the same time and find your path. Find what makes sense to you. I'm biased and I would recommend Sikh music, because it works. It worked for me. It's worked for Benji. It's worked for countless others. Um, it's very powerful and it's so easy to learn. It's not something that requires musical talent, because this isn't about music. Yeah, it's not about music. Uh, that's one thing we get confused about. This is, yeah, it's an instrument, but it's not about music. It's about our sound and our expression. Either you can be a performer or you can be someone who just expresses and sings to Guru. Yeah, but I would 100% challenge you to look through Sikh music, look it up, um, and give it a go. Try it and see what it does to you, and start looking into your emotions and go throughout life, uh, without judgment and without assumptions. Take everything you hear uh, with a grain of salt. Like, look at it from all angles. Don't automatically assume that what you just heard is correct. Yeah, or that's the only way. You have to look at it from all angles and make your own judgment, because we're always in the duality of right and wrong, but reality is above that. And that's what we should focus on um, and realize within ourselves. Thank you for letting me join.
Very beautifully said. Thank you, Preet, for being in our space today and for joining the Core Voices community and being on our talk show. I hope that we're going to have you back again, because there are many things that you told us we're going to talk about another time. And I've made a long list. There's like 20 things on there.
Oh yeah,
So
we could talk for hours.
Yeah. It is such a pleasure to have you on the show today. Thank you for being here. And thank you for tuning in to Core Voices.